Well, logically, we expect that all countries will come together and cut production because, frankly, the demand situation is very dire. And if you remember, the Russian stance in the March meeting of the failed meeting with OPEC was that we need to wait and see what the impact of COVID-19 is going to be on demand before we make a decision. Since then, the Russians have publicly recognized that the demand is falling and that they have to cut production anyways. So logically, you would come to this and say, we better have a coordinated cut and show that we are trying to balance the oil markets and help the oil sector in a tough times, rather than have a disintegration of the entire sector, filling in of inventories, in which case the oil price is going to be very volatile and oil prices can go down to $10, $15 per barrel. But as your previous speakers have said, there are a couple of hindrances to this agreement, and we hope that today they will overcome them.
Yes, one of those hindrances potentially is burden sharing by US producers at this stage. But as we've seen over the last few days, oil authorities in the United States have been very keen to point out there have been cuts in production. Will that be sufficient for the Saudis and the Russians, or do we need to see something at a federal government level?
Well, I mean, there are two stances here. Russia has publicly said that everybody needs to participate in this agreement. So has Saudi Arabia. From what we understand, Saudi Arabia is in constant conversations with the U.S. And as an ally of the United States, it can actually accept that approach. For Russia, the jury is still out there. But as I said, Russia will have to cut output anyways because of the demand collapse. That's the first reason. And the second issue is that OPEC Plus had already had a mechanism of dealing with issues when the countries cannot decrease output, but the economics are already suggesting a cut. That has been used to deal with Libya. That has been used to deal with Venezuela. That has been used to deal with Iran as well, when the economic situation mandates basically a cut, but no formal quota is given to the country. I think that same mechanism could be applied to the U.S. if both sides are willing to do that.
Karen, there are many obstacles to this as well, and one of them is the fact that it's illegal for America to join in this as well. I'm sure some of our viewers will recall that there is something called the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. I pulled up the first two clauses. One, it prohibits anti-competitive agreements. Two, unilateral conduct that monopolizes or attempts to monopolize the relevant market. It is illegal for the United States, and by their own laws, to actually join what they call as an illegal cartel in the first place. Those are pretty much President Trump's word. The second point about the G20 is, I find it almost nonsensical to think of a country such as India, which has 1.3 billion consumers, that has a huge import bill from energy, that is facing a global recession and massive slowdown, to say, yeah, I'll take oil prices, thank you very much indeed. They're just two of my objections. I don't know what you think of either of those.
No, I absolutely agree with you, especially on the oil side. And I think, both Saudis and the Russians have the research department at their ministries of energy, which perfectly well recognize that on a federal level, U.S. can't cut. Of course, there are mechanisms on the state level, such as Texas Railroad Commission, that would be cutting production. But this comes down to the political will and also the the background negotiations between U.S., Saudi, and Russia. If Russia and Saudi Arabia, for example, are observing the cuts of the U.S. shale oil producers, which are reaching approximately 40%, and by our estimates are going to go to 70%, that might just be an assurance enough that U.S. shale oil production is not going to surge by 1 million barrels per day. I think the point is that in this coordinated cut, Russia and Saudi Arabia are keen not to lose market share like they've been losing for the past 4 or 5 years. And in the current economic situation, I do believe that they will recognize that everybody is going to retain their market share and the U.S. is not going to surge. And remember that the U.S. shale production was probably slowing down anyways before this crisis.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.